So recently I posted a video on the channel about how to stay really tight and add a lot of top pressure using your body weight and mount, side control, and those things. And someone commented about the one in mount, and they were like, hey, like sometimes you're actually supposed to be loose in mount and give the person a little bit of space so you don't get rolled over, and they're technically correct. We don't want to give them too much space, but we do need to be looser. And I'm going to show you some scenarios when that can happen, and so this way you understand, and again, this is true in jiu-jitsu pretty much always. There's never like, this is the only thing you do. You sometimes have to be tight in mount, and sometimes you've got to be loose. And I'm going to show you some details on when you should be loose and how you can make that work to your advantage with my lovely assistant, Mr. Adam Wilson. Let's get started. So me and Adam are both pretty cooked today. We had a pretty tough session and we're both tired. So I'm not going to go crazy heavy like I did the other day because I felt like I was just crushing him in the mount. But let's go and talk about this position. So here's the danger we'll talk about if we stay too tight in mount. If someone begins to bridge up and we stay really tight with our legs and we don't give any space, bridge up, I'm going to be attached to the person and you'll get rolled over. Even if someone does something which is kind of technically not right, like a big bench press, if they bench press and bridge up at the same time, if I'm too tight with my legs and I don't give enough space, they'll be able to take advantage of that. So we have to loosen up sometimes. This is actually one of the most, I think it's probably one of the ways that I end up taking a lot of times taking better positions in mount is by giving space. Because what will end up happening is as you're really tight here, when the person bridges up, whatever side, go ahead and go slow for me. As they bridge up, we want to pop up to the foot and release a little bit of space, whatever side they're facing. So if he's bridging up to this side, as you train, you'll actually get used to feeling this hip. And this is how I sort of notice it. If I'm coming up into this position and I feel his hip lift coming up from my left side and he's rolling over the shoulder, I'll pop up just like this. Now what that does is that releases the tension, the tightness that I have connected to him. It allows him to roll underneath me, okay? Also the cool thing is that he's gonna be compensating for my weight. And so as he goes, he's compensating for my weight, and as soon as I release that pressure, a lot of times they'll overshoot what they were trying to do. Now we gotta make sure that we stay tight with this leg. So when we do give some space up, we allow some space in here, but I'm not releasing pressure like this because otherwise the leg will just come right through. So I'm staying tight and staying down. Now I can go back to being heavy again. And so you can think about like this thing where you're gonna open up and then get tighter, open up and get tighter. So once we open up and we let that pressure go through, we then go back to being very heavy on the person, dropping our weight down and working for, you know, attacks here. And again, this is such a great position, this side mount position. We have gift wraps, we have collar chokes, arm bars, we have back takes, we have all that stuff available to you. Another time where we're gonna have to kind of loosen up a bit is when they start to create frames. So for me, and this is my thinking on it. You don't necessarily have to subscribe to it. You can try other stuff, but this has worked pretty well for me. So let's say that Adam creates this frame, he's got his hands together. And again, if you're newer to jiu-jitsu, because I know I have a lot of new people that watch the channel, a frame is it's there to hold something in place, just like the frames of the wall hold something in place. It's there to try to prevent me from getting up any higher, because if I get up to a higher position here on Adam, if he bridges, does nothing. He loses his most powerful tool for off-balancing me. So most of the time, all the time, he really needs to fight to keep me down here so I don't get up to a higher mount. This creates a lot of problems for me because now if I'm here, well, he can keep me down there and he can also bridge and get me off balance. And by keeping me down to this position, his hips have a lot of power over me. So when he bridges, it's gonna off balance me and I've got to make some adjustments here. So one of the things that I'll also do is if I'm putting a lot of pressure and I feel like they've got a good frame, I will arch my back a little bit, taking a little bit of pressure off of them so that I can get up just a bit and pull these hands apart. Now it doesn't have to be super complicated. Just look down and you say, okay, which arm's on top? Peel the arm off and then come back down right here. And we can start to get underneath the arm, put a lot of pressure. Same thing here. Let's say if he switched the hands. If I'm here heavy and I feel like he's got a really good frame and I can feel it pressing into me, might be getting ready to bridge, I'm gonna arch my back, put a little pressure off of his body and onto my knees so I can go pull, and I go right back to putting pressure. And the reason being is I was showing this to one of my students the other day, and he was trying to keep pressure, and he's pulling, but obviously if I'm pulling, the grips are here, well, there's too much pressure to move them. So I've got to release a little pressure for a second, pull back down. And I'll use that constantly to disrupt those frames. Because if the person's here, that's bad for me. Now you could go into the collar to attack, right, and do that whole thing, but I like dealing with the hands directly and trying to isolate them first, okay? So again, those are a couple situations where you might want to loosen up a little bit. One more to throw at you, just because we were talking about the collar. If we do start to go into the collar here, okay, more than likely, one of the things that he could do is go for a trap and roll, where he grabs my arm, traps, rolls me over, gets back. So we've got to be aware of that. And this can also be a really useful weapon for us. So if I go in for this grip here, I've got my fist down right here. He begins to grab the grips here to do the trap and roll. Okay, I need to be careful with my body weight. So I want to make sure that I'm going to get ready to shift over for this one. You could go like this in post. I'll show you that one in a second. But I like to kind of lean just a little bit to the side, so that this way, as he bridges up, I can open up, and I'm so far over here that trap and roll is going to be hard. If I lay my weight right here, one arm right there, that's going to be a problem. Now, if I was trying to finish the choke, that's a different situation, because I have to have my hand here, and in that case, I'll bring my body weight more closer over this so my head becomes a post. But if you wanted to just bait the trap and roll so that you can go to this side mount position, slightly take your body off center, so this way, as he tries to bridge and roll you, you can pop up to your foot, pull up, and now you're back in that side mount position. If you go watch the other video, we talk about staying really tight. And that's just a couple ideas on when you need to loosen up. And primarily, it's when that person is exerting a lot of energy. Instead of staying super tight and connected, release the pressure for just a moment and then tighten back up. Basically, what ends up happening is all their energy just goes out the window, and then you get tighter. And that's a demoralizing thing. That person maybe took a lot of time to build that frame up. They're like, this one's gonna work. And they bridge up and they go, and then you just get tighter for it, right? That's a good thing for you, bad thing for them. And again, that's part of the idea of cooking someone in that bottom position where they just get tired and then they start making more and more mistakes. Again, you can watch high-level jiu-jitsu practitioners in mount and in some of these positions, and if someone does this kind of stuff right, I mean, they'll make white belt mistakes at a very high level, just because, again, they get tired, they get desperate to try to get out of the position. And again, fatigue, my wrestling coach used to say it, fatigue makes, he probably said something else, but fatigue makes wimps of us all. I'll just keep it PG. Fatigue makes wimps of us all, right? Like, it basically turns us all into to being tired, to making mistakes, to giving up. And so again, you can wear someone out like that by being tight sometimes and loosening up. So I'm rambling at this point, so I'm gonna stop. But thank you guys for watching the video. I'm finished. Adam?
Adam.